And some people ask the question, well, why can't we go into outer space to colonize Mars, colonize the universe? What's in store for the space program? I mean, all those science fiction novels, were they all just bogus, making up all these fanciful tales about conquering the universe? Well, let's talk about the space program. First of all, why is it so expensive? It's haunted by a four-letter word, cost, C-O-S-T. It takes about $10,000 to put a pound of anything into orbit, just spinning around the Earth. $10,000 a pound, that's your weight in gold. Now, to go to the moon, it would cost about $100,000 per pound to put you on the moon. Now, and to put you on Mars would cost about $1 million a pound. So in other words, your weight in gold would be sufficient to put you into orbit around the Earth. But for you to go to Mars, it would take your weight in diamonds in order to put you on the red planet. So immediately you begin to realize, oh my God, this is really an expensive proposition. And then when you think about the stars, then you begin to realize, my God, can chemical rockets even go that far? For example, people have seen the recent movie, Interstellar. Matthew McConaughey zaps across the galaxies, in fact, to encounter black holes and wormholes. I mean, is that preposterous for human beings to do something like this? Well, let's take a Saturn rocket. A Saturn rocket used to be our most powerful booster rocket. And let's shoot it into space and let it keep on going. Saturn rockets usually don't burst with energy more than about, 5 minutes or so. But let's just keep on burning the fuel. It turns out that if you go on a Saturn rocket to the stars, it would take about 70,000 years. 70,000 years traveling at roughly 25,000 miles per hour to reach the nearby stars. And so you begin to realize that, hey, we need a new propulsion system. So then the question is, what kind of propulsion system do we need to take us to the stars? Well, we don't have any at the present time. However, several have been proposed. One is the nuclear rocket. That is, having small mini-nuclear bombs thrown out the back end of your rocket ship like tiny little nuclear firecrackers. Each nuclear firecracker gives you a boost, and then you literally ride on the tidal wave created by a succession of tiny little nuclear firecrackers that you eject from the exhaust. Well, it seems such a preposterous idea, but if you do the math, it turns out that you could probably reach maybe half the speed of light using this method. So why not? Well, there's a problem. There's a big problem with this. And that is, first of all, you're dealing with nuclear technology, the technology of miniaturization. And that means that anyone who perfects this kind of technology can also use it to create designer hydrogen warheads. In other words, nuclear blackmail. Let's say that a terrorist group gets access to a suitcase hydrogen bomb by which they can detonate an entire city. I mean, think about it. These mini-nukes, these tiny little nuclear weapons can create havoc if they fall into the wrong hands. Well, this was called the Orion Project, and by golly, at least on paper, it might actually work. A starship using nuclear pellets to propel itself to the stars. Well, the physicist who was the main proponent behind it was Ted Taylor. Ted Taylor was an acquaintance of mine, and he had the distinction of being the designer of much of our nuclear arsenal. That's right, he was a bomb designer. He worked for the United States Pentagon. He used his formidable skills in nuclear physics to design the hydrogen bombs and atomic bombs of our nuclear arsenal. For example, the Davy Crockett, a small portable nuclear bomb, was designed by Ted Taylor. He had the rare distinction of also creating the fission bomb that had the largest output of any bomb detonated during the Cold War. Well, he was behind the Orion Project because he thought it was a way for nuclear weapons to be used peacefully to take us to the stars. Well, then one day I asked Ted, I said, Ted, hey, you're the guy who essentially designed most of our nuclear warheads. You're the guy who was the main force behind the Orion Project, so why did you quit? And then he said, well, honestly, he had a turn of heart, because he began to realize that these bombs he was working on, that is small mini-nukes, could be used for terrorism. You see, there are 3 generations of hydrogen warheads. The first generation in the 1950s, they were huge, gigantic monsters. They were about 15 feet long. They weighed many tons, and they were so big they could barely fit in the bomb bay of a bomber. That was the first generation. The second generation hydrogen bombs were MIRVs. That is, you could put maybe 10 of them inside the nose cone of a single rocket. And then third generation hydrogen bombs are designer hydrogen bombs that can be used anywhere, anytime, in the desert, in outer space, underground, all-purpose designer hydrogen warheads. That's the third generation, and that's what he was working on. That's what he did professionally, to go from the first to the second and then third generation hydrogen bombs. But then one day, it dawned on him that one day, if it's so easy to create this technology, then hey, maybe someday a terrorist could get access to the technology and all hell breaks loose. At that point, he quit. He said to himself, no, I cannot continue to work on this project in good faith, knowing that the end product of this could be nuclear annihilation.